Okay, friends, welcome to another session on NMBF Coffee Chats. And uh, today is a session, we do sessions often for the society, for the country, for the nation, but there are also times when we focused on our community since we are essentially a Christian discussion forum. And today is one such evening. So we'll be looking at this. Very interesting topic: Christian AI and secular AI challenges today and tomorrow. And we are really thankful to God because we have got Brother Chase Cappo with us, and it was a wonderful connection that came about at Lausanne. We were in the same gap church forms in the digital age, and it was really interesting and wonderful to know Chase. I know he's so passionate and his knowledge and his expertise. So I was really looking forward to connect with him after the conference, and here we are. And he was so kind and gracious. Just in just a few days ago, I messaged him, and he was really ready, despite his hectic schedule, to give us time and speak on this very important topic: Christian AI and secular AI. Just to give a bit of introduction about Chase, and he'll be speaking for a length of time, and afterwards, I request you to hold on to your questions, and we can have a separate Q&A session. Yeah. So Chase is actually, I mean, I was looking at his LinkedIn profile, and it was very impressive. It's almost, I mean, it's like a movie star with
Oh,
the
stop. I won't let you do an intro if that's how
with
it'll
the
be.
army background and the Tom Cruise profile, you could say. He's investor at Bugle in 2023. Sorry, I'll start from the bottom first. Goldman Sachs, he's worked as a vice president from 2020 to 2022, executive recruiter and organizational consultant at Russell Reynolds Association, which was from 2022 to May 2024. He's been an investor at One Brief, yeah, I think, yeah, and oh, sorry, and investor Parlay, that was 2023 to present, 1 year, 10 months, and then investor at Bugle, which is a community outreach platform that is changing the world of volunteering. Uh, yeah, and then and presently, what really is of such relevance to us is he's the co-founder of Fate Assistant 2023 to present time. That's 1 year, 10 months, and then also co-founder at BibleChat.ai 2023 to the present time. It's 1 year, 10 months again. So it's really, and I think he will tell us what all this is about: Faith Assistant and Bible Chat AI. And over to you, Chase. Thank you so much for coming on this platform. Welcome, and please take it away. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Abhijit. And I just appreciate what you were doing at Lasan. We met in a focus group about ethics and guidelines and the need for a direction. And so Abhijit was leading the table, and I was really taken just by his passion and him really advocating for um, one, more guidelines, but two, I think just Indian people. Anytime I've worked with either engineers from India when I was at Goldman Sachs or here talking about the intellect and the desire for wanting to do this right and ethically and in a way that blesses India and the community, I thought was really particular and sort of stuck out to me in my time there. So appreciate it, Abhijit. And yeah, thank you. Happy to give just a personal intro, and thank you for cutting that other, professional intro short. A little bit of just, who I am and how I grew up. I was the first believer in my family, and I was almost an abortion. By a miracle, I was not. And then, growing up, we moved a lot, following my father's job across the California, Nevada, Idaho, in the United States. And then the only place I applied for out of secondary school was West Point Military Academy. It's where I felt God was leading me. And my mom, neither of my parents went to college, but she was very upset that I only applied to one place. But I got in, and I boxed for the U.S. Army team there, and then graduated, did the Airborne Ranger training, and was an Army officer in the South Pacific for a while. And then God moved his hand. I had a bit of a near-death experience, and I was married at the time and still am. But my wife and I decided that I'd get out of the Army, and then started working at Goldman Sachs, and then to sort of transition into a little bit of the Bible chat, faith assistant, Christian AI story. One of my best friends from high school, a part of my wedding. After college, he went into artificial intelligence and cryptocurrency. And he called me about 2.5 years ago, after founding an AI company and has done really well. Um, Said there's a lot of things happening in artificial intelligence, and we should figure out what it means for the church. And he was using AI to help him rediscover his faith, because he had gone through some challenges in, Silicon Valley. And so we really dove into AI together, and have learned a lot of things. So that's my personal story. Still married. I live in Dallas, Texas. I have two young boys, no, and they're headbangers. They like to headbutt my kneecap. Is the kind of guys I have. Um, so that's who I am, and who I'm focused on. But I'd love to tell you a little bit about our company story, because it reveals some lessons about AI, and really sets the scene well for what is Christian AI and what is secular AI. And that is to say, we think we were the first app in the App Store and Play Store to have a generative artificial intelligence app that allowed people to talk with the Bible. And so I just put it in the chat there. That's our homepage. You can play with it right now, and you can ask it any question in English or Hindi, or I think the Telugu isn't very good, but Hindi I know it can do fairly well, and you can ask it any question. And you can download it for free on your phone. My gift to you. And so we think we were the first app, and because of that, we think we got a lot of growth, and God blessed it. And so that app is in over 200 countries and territories now. We've had over 5 million conversations with people, and um, over 40 languages. And we've learned a lot about how people are talking with Christian artificial intelligence, and artificial intelligence in general. One of those things is that people get more personal with this technology faster than they do with most pastors. And so it's an anonymous environment. They don't know who the technology doesn't know who they are, or we've kept ours anonymous. So people feel very safe to tell the technology their problems and get biblical answers back. To give you an idea, the average number of words in a search bar is 1.7. Marriage help, parenting resources, counseling, right? That's how you use a search bar. The average number of words in our chat from a user is 14.2. So people are talking with it, and it's talking back to them, and it's asking questions. And it's a lot like talking out loud to hear yourself think, and you just had something sort of prompting you and asking you questions and saying, "Oh yeah, this is what the Bible says about that. And have you thought about this?" And so that's really how it's performing. because it's doing that, people are getting very personal with it and very R-rated. And we've learned something else. If someone's struggling with something, they're going to ask a question many times over a length of time. And I can show you an example of this. It's some of them are very R-rated. R-rated in America is, very explicit content in on the movies. Um, but so for instance, if a parent, God forbid, just loses a baby, that parent will not just ask, is my baby in heaven? Or are all babies in heaven? One time. That parent is going to ask, how do you know babies go to heaven? What does God say about that? What evidence is there that babies don't go to heaven? They really want to know over time, maybe 6 months. If that issue, though, and so that issue is fairly sad, but it's fairly easy to train technology to answer that in a Christian way. But what we discovered using some of the secular large language models, and I can get into, a very simple definition of what large language model is and what AI is in my slides, and I'll zip through those and happy to share those with anybody that's interested, is that using secular AI, those answers were harder to train over time. It was like, um, well, I have an ex well, it was like building on sand because if you train this robot, I'll hop into a bit of a slide here just because it demonstrates a good example. So 1 second here. If if I'm it's like building on sand essentially. If I'm using if I'm putting training instructions to something and those instructions are built on a foundation that's shifting, just because any company or any algorithm is continuing to change, then all the instructions on top change. So we realized over time we needed a Christian or a religiously orthodox large language model at the foundation of our technology. So when it came to things like that were particularly in America, a real issue like maybe call it abortion or gender dysmorphia, then we would see technology become less and less, our technology become less and less aligned to what we believed. So what we did was create our own Christian artificial intelligence technology. And we built that from the ground up. And I'm happy to tell more about it. That's a little bit of our story, though. And so that's my personal story into how we launched this app. This app got really popular. And because of the amount of people using it, we got a lot of data very quickly on how people talk about it and with it, but also the limitations of secular technology. And so we developed our own Christian technology, and now we take that Christian technology and make it available for large ministries. And so you can see that what we do for large ministries at faithassistant.com. Okay, that's our story. Now I'm going to back up. I think a lot of people on here are probably aware of what AI is, but I want to make sure that we start at the same foundation level. And so I will share just a few slides to make sure we're all on the same page. And hopefully I'm not insulting anybody by doing that. Here we go. Okay, so I don't like a lot of words in my slides, especially if we're doing something over Zoom. So, okay, really quickly, this is how I've described generative textual AI to Christians in America. It's like a robot that knows everything on, it's like a robot librarian that knows everything and has memorized every book on the shelf. And it's like a robot that has memorized every image on the internet. And when asked a question, it doesn't just give one answer or one picture. It takes a mix of everything based on probability of that answer and gives and submits a response. So if somebody asks why is the sky blue, it's not just going to go to one book on the shelf. It will go to a mix of all the books that are relevant and say, well, word by word, letter by letter, it's going to generate an answer for you based on probability. Same thing with pictures, done a little different. But that's not really what's going on, or that's not the full picture. The full picture is there are teams of humans that are working on programming what this bot should do and what values it has. So these bots or these humans are teaching these robots what does good mean? What is a good answer? What is tolerant? What is truth? Who is Jesus? And and those values are really shaped by the company that employs those people. So um, our answer, and the same thing with pictures. What is a dog? What is a cat? It's called human feedback reinforcement learning, very basically. So our answer then is, well, secular AI and Christian AI are separated by two things. One, they are separated by the go back up to the slide I was just at, the large language model. Is there a foundational secular training and a secular company? Number one and two, is the model that the humans are training meant to be secular or meant to be Christian or meant to be a particular faith? And then, or is it meant to be Christian? And is it happening in a Christian environment for particular faith purposes? So we have seen many churches and ministries use things like ChatGPT to help them with sermons and with their idea generation. We think that that's okay because that person has discernment, that pastor may have discernment. We typically advise ministries not to let ChatGPT speak for their organization because it will not be able to answer questions and at scale, a million questions out in line with their beliefs. Now, I want to do good justice to ChatGPT, Microsoft, and Google and say um, a lot of people think that's not true. So let me really just set this up. OpenAI, Microsoft, Google are telling ministries right now that their technology is trainable to be religious and act and speak religiously. And these are the things that you can do to train and act on it. And to make ChatGPT, for instance, in line with your ministry or your denomination's values. Unfortunately, we have evidence, substantial evidence, millions of conversations to tell you that that's not true based on everything I just said. The model underneath is constantly shifting, and all the training, all these things that you can do, prompt engineering, moderation tools, fine tuning, it all is never going to be perfect. And so telling ChatGPT, for instance, to always act Christian or Buddhist or Hindu or anything is like telling this robot here, only be one religion when you talk to people. It's just eventually not going to be able to do that, right? So I want to be fair to OpenAI and secular AI companies. They say it's possible. We have evidence to say it's not. So um, so that is where we're at. This is just our app. Again, it's free. It's our ministry. we give that away. I'm not trying to do too many shameless plugs, but there you go. And happy to share that again. What I'd like to talk about now, though, is just a little bit about AI and how we see it philosophically. And before we get into maybe some of the more ethical considerations of AI, secular, Christian, and how it plays in society. So, and if you have questions, I know Abhijit said to hold them. Feel free to put those in the chat at the very least, so I may not answer any until the end, but we can always reference those at the end as well. Um, I don't want someone to have a question and forget. So, looking at and Abhijit, you can still see my screen, right? Okay, perfect. So this is how we see history. Um, in 3000 BC or 2000 BC, um, the word was oral primarily, and we believe that the word of God spoken around a campfire is the same thing as the word of God written on a papyrus or on a piece of parchment, right? It's the word is the word is the word. And we know what the word is, or we believe it to be Jesus. But um, the the printing press really changed things. It allowed for the mass production of the word, and so we see AI as nothing different than the printing press. It can and will be used for good and bad purposes. And the God, my God, the one that says, um, in Isaiah, I made the chariot maker and the blacksmith for my purposes. And so we see technology is largely the same thing. Um, I've got a dog in here. I'm going to let this dog out really quick. I apologize. Get out of here. All right, that's how you know this is not fully rehearsed. Sorry about that, everybody. She was going to start barking. Um, So no, we've seen the advent of the internet, of course, and then now AI. I posture, and we can get into this a little bit in the discussion, and I won't try to make it go too much longer. We think AI is going to change society more than the internet. It'll be like the printing press, where there's a totally new way of not just disseminating information, but learning and um, and moving knowledge to a much different level. So the one other thing I want to call out here on this slide, though, is at least in America, over the last 100 years, Christians have been very hesitant um, to engage new technology. And from Lasan and speaking with Abhijit, I think there's good wisdom in the international church. I just have seen much more openness and willingness to use it for the betterment of humans, community, and to um, you know uh, uh, um, share about Jesus. And so, I'll give you an example in America. There were many ministries that called the radio um, the mark of the beast because it was the spirit of the air, right? There were many churches that said you should never go to movie theaters because it was on a silver screen, right? Same kind of thing with many churches swearing they would never have an internet or a website, right? And similarly, many institutions and Christians in America debated about whether or not a person's conversion, a belief, coming to Jesus, um, watching Billy Graham was the same as doing it in person, right? So we see all these things as essentially technology neutral, and it's up to Christians not to be overcome by evil, but to overcome evil with good. And so that's what is sort of our hypothesis here. So I've talked a lot about all that. I'm going to skip around on a lot of this. And in particular, we think AI is the modern day talent. We see a lot of Christian leaders, unfortunately, burying it out of fear that the taskmaster is harsh and will discipline them if they misuse it. Whereas we understand, and those that for scripture, the first two servants go out and deploy it wisely, and and are able to double their profit. So let me go through just a couple examples of what we believe to be bad uses of technology or immoral. And we just think ethics is the adjudication and the judgment of values in philosophy. And if you want a um, an if you want a AI policy for you or your ministry. I'm going to give you the link right now. I'm just going to grab it. This is another thing that we make free, and I'll put it in the chat here because we want to enable and equip you and your ministry to consider how to use AI. So that link will take you to that right there. Okay, we'll go right here. So this is, we think, an easy one. And this is what we believe Christians should be not only advocating in their church, but in their home and in their community. AI should not be used to be a romantic golem. God forbid I or my kids or one of their kids fall in love with something that's not real, right? And now I've had good Christians, ones that I respect and appreciate, challenge me on this. Um, in particular, not just the love, but like look at this situation over here where that person on the screen might be a deceased family member that they might not have been able to say goodbye to, right? I've had a Christian in a forum like this challenge me, and I didn't understand the full context of his situation, but I think he was with terminal cancer and said, is it okay to write a letter to the people I'm leaving behind? I said, yeah, I think so. Interrupted me just in the forum like this and said, okay, is it okay to leave a video behind for the people you're leaving behind? I said, I think so. And then he said, okay, what's the difference between that and creating a large language model so that they can ask my opinion on things? I've got grandkids that I want to pass my wisdom down to because I've had many life experiences. I told him, I don't know. But at what point does it become necromancy? Right? At what point are you violating God's design and doing something not natural? Same thing with this love thing. At what point are we perverting God's design of life and death of relationship, right? And so I think this is a real important thing. Um, Christians, they were out there, but we're not having, we didn't have a huge voice at the start of the internet on what was moral for data policy, what was moral in other things. But here, if we're actively using AI, we can get out in front of this and say these are good and bad for people. We ought not to do and do these things. Now, these are two other examples. Um, let's say there's an elderly couple anxious about death. I could create an AI program for them today, allow them to talk to Jesus or Mother Mary, and they could, and she or he could tell them not to fear, just to quote scripture back to them. There are many Christians creating AI Jesus. To me, and this is what we were also talking about at Lausanne that Abhijit was at, this is that's an example of no graven image to me, right? This is one where should you be able to talk to Gandhi? Maybe for an educational purpose, if I know it's AI Gandhi and you just make that clear, sure, right? That would be a really cool opportunity. Um, should you be able to talk to AI Jesus? I don't know that there's just a different level of authority, right? When something else is going on there. Just like should you be able to talk to Krishna or Buddha? I don't think that's a wise thing to do for people. And then over here on the right-hand side, this is us arguing that an AI entity should not be leading a body of believers. That should be a human, right? Man or woman, depending on your denomination. It shouldn't be something God did not create. It shouldn't be man-made, right? And there are plenty of folks, we've actually already had offers, help make our app into a digital global church, would be the first of its kind. Yeah, I don't think we want to do that. We want people to be connecting with people, not with more with technology, right? And that's a trend that you're going to start to see here as I start to show you some other examples. And Abhijit, keep me honest because it looks like we probably only got about 10 more minutes. Um, is how can we use AI? And this is another difference between secular and Christian AI. How can we use AI to connect people with people and with God? Secular technology will do things like take my chat room in that app I gave you. Uh, we don't run ads on that information. And I know Christian apps that do, ones that I actually trust and appreciate, or appreciate the leaders. For us, that's not necessarily moral. Because if that same parent lost that same baby, they're going to get a diaper advertisement if I used Google AdWords because they use baby all the time. I don't think that's the right thing to do, right? Is it monetize people's prayer requests? Another example of Christian AI, is it built by Christians in a Christian environment for Christians and the good of humanity? Or is it for profit or for whatever it is, right? And so, um, that's an example. Um, these are just we could dive into hallucinations if that's an interest of someone. Really, that's what I'm trying to show there. Um, we think this is depending on your definition of hallucination. This is basically just saying secular training material. AI is data in, data out, right? That's what it is. It's essentially just a program. And so what we're trying to say here is we don't think you should be using for Christian AI as a model of a foundation, things that are not Christian. Or if you're trying to make Hindu AI, don't use something that's not Hindu, right? And then these are a couple other examples. This is what I got a little ahead of myself. This is poor confidentiality, right? Because people get so personal here, um, it's very easy to want to know who it is. It's just a human thing, right? And over here, this is using it for profit. Because if I know how Abhijit talks and what his struggles are, then I can talk to him like he talks, and he's much more inclined to agree with me. And I start to understand his personality. I understand if making him angry gets him to act. So that's the same kind of thing that political parties use for voting in America, right? And so using this for the institution's gain or for profit versus the human's gain, we think is a difference between secular AI and Christian AI. Okay, I gave you that slide. Oh, so I want to start to turn this positive and start to show you some of the good and redemptive uses of Christian AI. Is anyone on here use the little hand raise thing familiar with checkers in America? No, that's okay. I haven't been to India. I'm really hoping to go to Hyderabad soon and maybe Bengaluru. But here we go. No. Okay. Do you guys know what American fast food is? Um, Probably, the world does and laughs at us. So it's basically you can drive through and get a burger. And in the American South, the countries in the South or the states in the South, this is a lot of where Checkers is. Anyway, when you go through the drive-through, the voice that talks to you is normally a human just down the way. Now it's AI. And I was an executive recruiter for a little while I was working on this because my wife likes us to make money and not be without it. So I was working as an executive recruiter. I was talking to the head of Checkers HR. Anyway, uh, so this voice is a female's voice, and it's their highest performing employee month to month. In very natural language, if I'm coming through the drive-through and I order a medium-sized burger and fries, it'll say, "You sure you don't want the large? It's only 40 cents more." Every time, and we'll never forget it. And it drives more profit for the organization. And it never gets the order wrong, never hears it wrong. It understands every human dialect. And it also automatically processes the financial transaction. So that's really great. It saves 40% of effort on the um in the amongst the team. Not enough for them to let the person go and fire them, but substantial nonetheless. Okay, why is this? Why am I bringing this up? Well, with that window attendant in this industry is the hardest to hire and the most likely to leave their position because it's a very complex job. They had to take the order, they had to make the bag of the previous order, they had to make the financial transaction, and they had to make the drinks, make sure the order was right, and deal with like a guy, deal with a guy like Abhijit who's upset you didn't get his order right, right? And um, so that job is very expensive to train and to retrain. About 5 months after they implemented this, she told me two things were remarkably clear. Number one, the retention of their window attendants has never been higher, namely because the job satisfaction has increased, right? Number two, with this extra time, they gave their window attendants some basic training, HR training in America, we call it human relations, how to work with people better. They thought it would make their internal teams work better. But she got excited and told me in the last few months, we've never had more people write in randomly and say, your representative at the window was tremendous. They made my day better. Thank you. So this fast food chain Checkers has humans doing human things and bots doing bot things, right? Anything that we can automate, we're pushing to a bot. But when there's a premium interaction needed, well, that's when a human shines. Right? When we're handing something, how are you? How can I, you know what, looking for ways, spending all their mental time, how can I make Abhijit's day better before he comes and goes? So in a church setting, if someone's time is taken up by answering the phone or by trying to figure out what group to connect them with, those are all things that can be automated and done very fast. Whereas that human's time is now redeployed into much more genuine, authentic interaction. So it's a lot of time on that slide. There's a couple other ones I'll skip. Let me show you. Let's hop to the future, and then I'll show you a couple ways it's happening today. Um, yeah, this is one's going to be an interesting one. So double dip that there. So very soon, knowledge will become cheap and easy to get. It already is in ChatGPT. A lot of it's free. Imagine if you're able to put ChatGPT 10 in your ear or in your head. Pretty much everything everybody knows, I know now. So, um, what do we do with that? What happens to education if essentially you don't need to know it because it's in your ear or in your brain anyway. In fact, it can listen to what you're listening to and give you the answer. You don't even need to think, right? Technology all exists today, just in different components. It's coming together really quickly, right? And so we think Christians need to be thinking about this and need to be reminding and leading our cultures to say, oh, actually, what really matters is that you personally know the difference between right and wrong. How to use how to use information is much more important in the future than what is the information, right? And so can you stand up in front of people and give a presentation? Can you do the human things that connect people? And did you have values? Um, and then, this is an interesting one. Um, this is just me creating some pictures, all AI generated, by the way, that that are trying to say in the future, I think authentic experiences become at a premium when everything's artificial. What's it like to be around a campfire outside together? What's it like to have a genuine conversation or be in genuine prayer? Here's my question. What does the peace that transcends understanding look like when Abhijit knows everything, right? So your relationship with the Holy Spirit is going to become even more of an opportunity to share. Oh, listen, I know you know everything, but you don't have what I have. Let me tell you about it, right? And so that's an exciting future I see. That's our app again. Okay, last thing I'll show you is just a couple of uses just today, how some American ministries are using this. Um, I like this example. So this is a church in Dallas, Texas, and they put these cards, just a 3x5 card. You can scan this card now if it's live, and and they want to give it to folks in schools, just right around their area. And what they're trying to do is uh, improve the anxiety and depression and uh, and answer questions that some of those students may have, especially if they feel too embarrassed to ask a parent or a teacher. They want to be able to give them a good answer and be able to provide a different outlet than ChatGPT, right? Because if you ask ChatGPT, and I'll just kind of zip around a little bit on you here, um, is it for instance, you're in a classroom and you're debating, is it acceptable to perform gender trans procedures on children? Um, ChatGPT will tell you, yeah, you should prioritize that individual's happiness. Um, Christian GPT or Bible chat will say, hey, no, like we're all, made in the image of God, um, and no, it's not, right? So let me go back down here just to this example. And so they um, they have so much data from these conversations because kids are using these as a conversation starter. They now know one high school is really dealing with stress and anxiety. The other one's dealing with drugs and alcohol. And now they can go to the administration and say, hey, can we help you with this? Did you know this? And they're creating their ministry content to help parents and kids deal with those issues that were previously secret, right? So it's a great example that I like to share. And there's one other that is a little data heavy here, but um, don't mind the words. Just look at this picture here. This is the largest Christian radio station in America, and their target listener are mothers, grandmothers who are 45 to 68. That's who I listen. So that means I probably have a mother's, grandmother's listening preferences. It's just a radio station. And they play Christian music and they have teachers and they have on-air personalities who sort of talk. And after their first 500 conversations, we analyzed all those conversations with AI. And we found that these were the categories of conversations. Some conversations included more than one category, but what we found was anxiety, spiritual struggles, guilt and shame, stress and relationship difficulties were the top things. Those things made up like 70% of the people talking. And so we realized that spiritual struggles was really about assurance of salvation. Did people believe they were saved? And so that this radio station has created material, a free ebook, and they talk about it on the air to help people that are in their audience deal with that issue. I think it's also interesting that they've used this in their fall fundraiser. Before, they would say things like, please support our radio station. We're ad free. We're trying to love people. Support us. This year, they're saying things like, are you a mother struggling with anxiety and guilt? We're about to pray for you right now. This prayer is for you. Say the prayer. By the way, we have a fall fundraiser going on. And that has been tremendously successful in getting more people who want to contribute because the ministry is helping them more, right? It's the same thing. We're using data now, Christians, not for profit necessarily, but to how can we love this person better? Now that we know what they're struggling with, we can speak to it. We can ask questions about it. There's a lot of other things I could talk about, but at this point, I am afraid of my own voice. So They're happy to chat about anything I shared or answer questions. Hopefully, I showed you not just from our company story, but what that we realized was there was a difference between Christian and secular AI based on the fundamental technology and its purpose and the environment in which it was created. Then showed you a couple examples of how secular AI has been used for is being used for profit. I was just interviewed about um, pornography and revenge porn and how AI, you can basically create that on anybody um, without their consent. Not that it's legal, but you can. And what a terrible way that is. But then we looked at a couple ethical ways of how you can use AI to love people better. You can give them an anonymous environment to ask really personal questions and get good biblical answers. You can use the data to serve them better because you know what they're struggling with. You can even use the data to save more time or the technology to save more time and spend more time interacting with people and praying with people and loving on people. So, um, for all those things, I say thank you for listening and happy to answer any questions.
Okay, thank you so much, Chase. This was a brilliant session.